sometimes bad guys don't think far enough ahead. They don't understand that just because we as the great American people, as big as we are on the whole planet, have this one central location that is representative of us, it's still only representative. America is a lot bigger than just one little tiny speck on the freaking planet. This city here, this centralized city, may represent America right up until it doesn't represent America. It has to be this tough. It got this screwed up because people forgot how easily an enemy can come in by subversion, by misdirection, by lies, through treasonous traitors, through bribery, through blackmail, honeypots, every way you can do it to get control of a country, to get control of people. Those honeypots with the young girls and older men, those managed things, whether it be Epstein or somebody else, you've seen them. You know what we're talking about. Grow up. They're real, and you know they're real. These people have been bought off. They're looking for personal gain. And they're in positions of power and authority over the whole country. And you, every one of you, are being called on. Take a deep breath. All you have to do is hold your ground. They're the ones that are self-isolating. They're not coming for you where you're at. They're going to self-isolate and try to digitally control you. It's not real. They're going to stop you from talking. Now I'm going to talk to my neighbor. I'm going to talk to you, Michael. But we're all going to stay on the same page. We're all going to stay on the same ship. Where we go one, we go all. Take a deep breath. As dark as it may appear, the reality is we've got this. One thing about the game of chess is the game doesn't just go on forever. It has a limited number of moves. And the further into the game you get, the less potential moves that are available to both sides. The game becomes more condensed as it goes on to a final checkmate conclusion. They're playing their hand, we're playing ours. We have the high ground. We have the numbers. We have control of the guts of the ship. We have the moral authority, and the people know it. And no matter how loudly they scream, it doesn't matter. Because in the soul of every person in your audience right now, they all know I'm telling you the truth. What they have to do is take a deep breath, reach down deep inside themselves. If you see somebody beside you and they got their head up their fucking ass and they're about to expire because they haven't got oxygen there, try to get them to pull it out. There is a large number of people, no matter what you do, they've decided this is the route they're going. They're vested. They can't see any other option. They're going to go full retard. You're just going to have to watch and let them expire, do what they're going to do. We don't have to even lift a finger. That's part of the thing. Everybody is, I got to get, some kind of weapons and stuff to take care of myself, protect myself. There isn't enough of them, honestly. What they're really scared about is that their numbers aren't even as deep as they think they might be. They think they might have 20%. Half of that 20% that's remaining is going to wake up. As much as they might not like and be in full Trump derangement syndrome, they're not going to go full commie. These people think they will. It's not happening because we're American. And there's a soul here. There's a religious revival taking place in the American people. Literally, they're calling on God. And that's the part they can't get. It doesn't show up in an AI. It doesn't show up in a computer program. It doesn't show up in a movie. But it's there. It's real. And they can't calculate for it. They can't see it. It'll make their brains explode. Relax, stay calm, stay focused, hold the ground. No, that's all you have to say. not here, not happening. And then let our guys do their work as they expose themselves, show who they really are, all the way to the core of their being, and enjoy the show.
Fake it, fake it, fake it.
Well, hello everybody, and it is Friday night and Saturday for our good friends over in Australia. And man, we have a lot of you guys over there. I get messages from you guys all the time, and I am so thankful for it. You know, it's amazing that technology allows us to do the things that we do these days, right? And so, thank you so much. My wonderful wife here, she brought me my coffee that came back for me.
Hi, Renee.
Hi,
pretty
sister.
All right. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it so very much. Bye.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So, Captain Kyle here, Lieutenant Colonel Bossy, and our bestie, Kelly. And so, before we do anything, we are going to pray. Now that I got my coffee, that's all that matters. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Lord, I just ask you to continually watch over all of us in these crazy times that we're in right now. And we know that it's all orchestrated by you to bring forth that evil out into the light so that it can be exposed and it can be dealt with once and for all. Father, we thank you for it. We praise you. And Lord, I just ask that you watch over all of our military and the law officers and the people that are out there doing the things in which must be done to bring law and order and peace back to this world and to this land, and to bring about order, your order, because you are a God of order. And Father, we thank you for it. We praise you. And Lord, we just ask for a hedge of protection around all of them. We ask for a hedge of protection around tomorrow and everything that's going on, Father. We know that we are in the final battle. And Lord, we thank you that you allow us to participate and to stand strong and know that we are the children that you created us for a time such as this. And we thank you for it. And Father, we just ask that you continually pour out your discernment in this crazy mind game that the people are trying to play on everybody. Father, let them know the truth. Let them have that resonate in their heart, because that's what truth does. Father, we thank you for it and we praise you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Now, all right. There's so much that we can talk about, and we can go a bazillion different ways. But so, since you're our wonderful guest and you are I take a perspective from you that I can't get from anybody else, right? Because of your military background. I know other people in the military, my son, family, also and so forth. But not only that, but an officer and a person that has been out there in different parts of this aspect in which we're playing right now, right? And so with what you see, we're going to go here first with what's taken place with the situation with Israel and Iran right now and the Middle East. What do you see is a causal effect of what we're experiencing right now and why it might be going on the way it is?
Yeah, thanks, Captain. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. And yeah, you are loved, much loved here in Oz, Captain. They love your perspective, because we are we're in an interesting place down here at the bottom of the planet. Now, let me just set the context for what we're going to talk about today. What everybody's got to realize is there is a plan. And I'm not talking about the white hats. I'm talking about above that. One of the cabal's biggest achievements and biggest lies was that God doesn't exist, and if God does exist, doesn't have a role in our day-to-day lives. Well, you'll be pleased to know, and this is important to remember because we tend to rest on our own strengths, our own perspectives, which are so inadequate. It really is. So as long as we remember there is a God that's daily involved in our lives, that gives us all a great sense of peace. It doesn't mean we don't have anything to do. We do, of course we do. But there is a plan. It's a good plan. It's created by a loving God. And for those of you who don't believe that there is a God or that God's daily involved in our lives, the science proves it. I've mentioned it before. I mention it again. Dr. Stephen Meyer's The Return of the God Hypothesis. And once you get that foundation right, you can build any edifice you want. You dig a deep foundation, you can build a skyscraper to the moon. It just depends how deep your foundation is. And as I said, one of the Cabal's greatest achievements was to convince the planet that God doesn't exist. And if he does, he's not involved. If he is involved, he's some sort of murderous lunatic. Not the case. And that's what gives all of us, people of faith, such stability. It doesn't mean we don't lose our temper. We don't have our moments. Of course we do. So having said all of that, now you can sit back and look at Israel and Iran. You can sit back and look at the No Kings protest. You can look at, in Australia, why the Australian government has given $45 million to the World Health Organization when we've got thousands of homeless, the cost of living crisis, mortgage stress, you name it. And it's sending everybody berserk. They're panicking. They're in a flat and they don't understand it. And it's mostly distraction. But anyway, let's look at Israel and Iran. Sorry, I just find it amusing. Not that people are dying, that's sad. But the attacks, the nuclear threat out of Iran, it's being sold as if this is something we need to worry about. This is the distraction that the black hats always wanted. Let me just throw something at the listeners. Do you really think that Israel is their only capability against Iran comes in the form of missiles, planes, and bombs? You can bet your bottom dollar that they have people in the Iranian nuclear industry at all levels ready to collapse it when they want to. Now, our view in Australia has for the longest time been, certainly Australia One, is that we're not interested in Israel and the Palestinians and the Iranians. Why? On a I suppose, a geostrategic perspective, not in our area of strategic interest. And on top of that, it's mostly distraction. It's real, but mostly distraction. And if you're looking at that, that's good. You should look at it because you want to understand what they're trying to distract you with and from. The threat potentially could have been real, but it's not. It was neutralized some time ago. But they're still getting you to look at that so you can see what the black hats intended. Now, the idea of a nuclear exchange out of Iran is, of course, terrifying and devastating, as was the potential nuclear exchange out of Russia. And we know, this is old news now, that Hillary was supposed to be elected. There was supposed to be a nuclear conflagration. And from that, the New World Order would start being established. Well, that never happened. And so what you're seeing is the Russian conflagration 2.0, the discount nuclear war that they didn't get
because
and
under Hillary they actually gave them Iran, they gave them actual nuclear devices, so to speak, right? And they gave the same thing to North Korea. And that plutonium actually had a signature specifically for Russia, and that it was going to tie back to them when it was actually used. So it was going to be blamed on Russia. And then that whole thing, basically, when that facilitated, Putin found out about it, just for people to find out. People found out. Putin found out the guys within Russia that actually gave that material over to these individuals that were supposed to be starting this so-called nuclear war. And those guys were executed right off the bat, people. He didn't play no games, no nothing. It was, you screwed up and you're gone. And so that whole thing is a part of a complete scandal that Q told us about a long time ago that actually showed up and actually manifested. So when Trump liberated North Korea away from being under the deep state control, that was taken off the board. So was Iran's taken off the board. And this whole thing has already been decided, people. It was already out there. This has been done a long time ago. And just like what we've tried to tell you, that 50% of what you see on the internet is all fake. It is done by AI and through bots and information that is not real. It is to paint a narrative so that the people respond and react in a specific way. Wag the Dog, the movie, watch it. They can do all of this stuff, and they've been doing it for a long time. And so when Joe Rogan started coming out talking about it the other day, that 50 to 85% of the information that you are getting on the internet is not real. Even if you think you're watching it in real time live, it's being generated. Just like the attacks on 9/11, it was being generated live and put out into broadcast. So didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that's just something that's a nugget that backs up exactly what you're saying, that the people need to understand. And it's all been validated that all took place as well. So continue on, sir.
Yeah. No, that's all right. No, thank you for that. Because that's critical information. It really is. Thanks for that. On top of that, for the newer people that are joining us, and I'm not sure about your numbers, Captain, but we're certainly getting newer people who they're new to the game. They've woken up. They're desperately looking for information. And for those new ones out there that don't understand that the same organization are playing both sides against each other, and we are the meat in the sandwich. Go back to World War II, where General Wiedemeyer was the U.S. general operating in China, in the Chinese theater. And he was directed from Washington to make sure that Mao Zedong had a role in the post-World War II Chinese political setup. And Chiang Kai-shek, of course, being the other democratic, more or less, Chinese leader. And Wiedemeyer said, look, Chiang Kai-shek's the man we should back. Mao Zedong, he's not a political leader. He's just a thug. He's just a low-grade criminal. And that's what he was. And he was directed and compelled to ensure that Mao Zedong was armed and had a good 50% of what was going on in China. And that came out of George Marshall's office, General George Marshall, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, a much revered man, but deep state, as they all were. And people say, well, why would they set up China like that? Because they needed the two sides to fight each other to give them an excuse for the conflicts that were going to continue for the next half a century. Now, the beauty of that maneuver allowed Mao Zedong to kill 40 million of his own people. So we're talking about some pretty sick individuals, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to understand that the show is being run by sick individuals. This is not a contest like a pair of boxers in the ring. Not even close. War sport, it's an appalling analogy that is used quite regularly. There's nothing fair about it. It's dirty. It's nasty. And that's the way it's been going on. So if you think that it's odd that today both sides are being played against each other and we are the meat in the sandwich, this is the way it has always been. Ever thus has it been. So there you go. So whether it's Israel and Iran or any other major issues out there, what you are seeing is what the Black Hats intended. And as the captain said, it's already not entirely under control because there are still some elements out there with capability. And let me just explain that, for example, because one of the most frequent questions we get here in Australia is why are they still spraying us? Is it black hats? Is it white hats? Is the weather wars? Has it changed? Well, here's an idea for you. Maybe, just maybe, the white hats are spraying. They're using black hat assets because, as we've said before, when you're in a guerrilla war, you have no assets. The adversary has it all. So the role of the guerrilla, and we're out of that phase now, but the role of the guerrilla is to take the assets, the ammunition, the food, the water, the supplies from their adversary, the conventional forces, and use it against them. And so the white hats did that, say. And now let's say they're controlling the spraying. And the spraying now includes chemicals that are not toxic to humans, but they might be killing, mosquitoes, Bill Gates mosquitoes that have been released on the planet. Now, they're not doing that necessarily with a lot of fanfare because I don't want people to know. But I'm not suggesting this is true. But I'll tell you what, I'd be thinking about that if I was a white hat. I'd say, right, let's spray these mosquitoes out of the air because they're going to damage the population potentially. These genetically modified mosquitoes are designed to poison us. So there are so many layers and layers and layers of this war. The trick is to sit back, wait your 24, 48, 72 hours, and try to look from that deeper perspective. And that's why I show the deception plans for World War II for Normandy, how complex that was. And that was just a very simple, by comparison to this global war, as a very simple invasion in one domain, well, in three domains, sea, air, land, and maybe a bit of cyber in terms of comms. But the complexity was quite simple. This war is so complex with elements, domains in a conventional war, sea, air, land, cyber, space. Okay, now we have cyber and space, but you also have financial, you have economic, you have all the elements of trade, you have religious, you have cultural. These are all domains in which the war is now fought. It is beyond most militaries' capability, and that's why they're heavily relying on other capabilities to synchronize and coordinate the operation. It's just breathtaking. So do your best to sit back. Watch, as one O'Sullivan said, do what you've got to do because there are still things going on out there. As I said, in Oz, we have thousands of homeless that the government is doing nothing about, nothing. National impact, as Mike Flynn says, we're out there helping as best we can. But it's seriously, just sit back. There is a plan. There is a good God behind all of this, and everyone's doing their best to make it happen. And if it's not happening fast enough for you, I get it. It's frustrating, but that's war.
You know, that's a part of, developing patience, and it develops character, and being able to have resiliency, right, through adversity, because we know these things have taken place, and it's very difficult to go through a regular mundane day over and over again when we know that we know, and I mean, I know that it's all bullshit, and eventually it's going to get exposed, it's going to get turned over. But until then, it's like going through the motions until it actually happens. And not only going through the motions, but holding a high enough vibration to not let that affect you personally, as well as the people around you, because they actually sense it, and when you have that knowing and that, that resolve within you, they pick up on it really quick. It's like the people at work, I kid you not, they're like, what's up with you lately? And that's like, I don't even care to be here anymore. And they know I don't. And I'm only doing it because God hasn't released me from it. But I am spending as little time there as I possibly can. And I'm spending more time with my family, my wife, with taking care of myself, doing those things in which I haven't been doing over the last 15 years that I should have been doing more of, like, outside playing golf and just enjoying life. And I don't worry about this stuff. I don't think about this stuff. I watch it or I pay attention to it in times in which I'm not actually doing other stuff. And so I just want to encourage you guys not to become enveloped in this, because it will overcome you, because there's so much crap going on, and it's not designed for you. It's designed to overwhelm the psyche of the person that's still asleep. That's what it's for. This is a psychological warfare game to break that spell that's on people. And so, the closer we get to, complete chaos, because that's what it is. It's complete chaos. And that's, order comes from chaos, whether you realize it or not. And so that's what's happening, is chaos is intentionally being brought forth to the people in the public space, because, we've always said that this has to go public. It's been going on in the background for years and years and years, right? And we've known about these things going on in the background. We've seen the things that are going on in the background. We've brought them to the forefront, and people call it bullshit. And it's like, fine, whatever. Now you want to see it. Well, now you're seeing it, and you're seeing it happen right now because they're showing it to you. And this is a part of where don't become overwhelmed with it, because what you're about to see is going to be overwhelming. That's why Q said specifically, do the Anons even know what's about to be unleashed? Because they don't really, unless you have not only dug deep into the information side of this, but also worked on yourself spiritually and done the inner work, because that was a part of what all of this was about. And if you hadn't done the inner work of the spiritual part of this, it's going to shake it out of you. And that's intentional, on purpose, because these negative energies have to be dealt with and they have to come out. And, you know, for years, I've been trying to tell people those things that you've got in the deepest recesses of the closet, swept under the carpet for years that you've not dealt with, you need to drag them out and deal with them in the light so that they can be actually released and not to come back. Okay. This is important.
Yeah.
You know, it's whenever chaos, and you know what it's like, I know what it's like, but when utter chaos happens, it is so overwhelming that it is a data, just information overload to the body and to the brain. A lot of people crash afterwards because it's so overwhelming, the adrenaline dump that you get from it all. And I know that with me, myself, personally, when I get into that situation, everything slows down. And I mean, it goes super freaking slow. It's like, you know, with most people, it's like, it seems like it goes faster, where it's like, you know, where all of a sudden 10 minutes feels like it was a minute. Well, with me, it's just the opposite, where everything slows down. And it's like everything just kind of goes on like half speed. It's really crazy. And I think, you know, other people I know that have been in the teams and different stuff have said that they experience that same thing. And that's what allows them to stay calm and be able to think in that chaos situation, because, you know, you may have a plan, but that plan never works. And so you always have to go to backup plan, to backup plan, to backup plan throughout the actual plan, because it never is going to work the way you actually visioned it to. But you had to vision it 50 different ways, because each time you're going to do it something different. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You're right on the money. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's one thing I want to say is that there's an old adage, you know, rise to the occasion. No, people don't rise with the occasion. As Lincoln said, we descend to our training. And that's where you don't need to think. You just respond, react, and because you're there. And it's interesting you mentioned that, Captain, because this week on the Green Room, addressing an issue on exactly that, preparing ourselves. And as always, there's 5 levels you do it: physical and mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. And if you're well trained, well practiced, well educated, and well exercised, when life turns to custard, which it will invariably, you're there and you're ready to go. And so what I've been telling people, just, you know, is get yourself ready. Spend this time, instead of worrying about that which you have no control. Get into the cellar and start cleaning it up. Go to the linen cupboard, pull everything out, rewash, refold, stack it so you've got that satisfaction of a tidy linen cupboard. Or go to the garden and start cleaning up all the deadfall from that last sort of windstorm, whatever it is. But start simplifying. And I'm addressing next week's Green Room exactly this issue. We need to prepare ourselves individually so we can prepare our families, so we can prepare outside of the house with our neighbours, our communities, and then our regions and our towns and whatever. But it all starts with the individual and the family. Each individual brick in a wall's got to be solid and strong. And so that's what we're talking about. And specifically in terms of doing that inner work, it's critical, because what is coming is so foundationally different. It's going to blow people's minds. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait, because I almost feel like I've come from another planet. When I look at Earth and the way we behave, I just think, I don't belong here. This place is just filthy. You know, we kill babies more easily than we can admit simple truths about human nature. It's just in places it is awful. The good news is in places it is just beautiful. And there are great people out there doing great work all the time. But in the green room next week, in addressing this, because we've got to do that inner work, it's hard to sometimes know where to start. So what I'm going to recommend to people is, and I'll talk about it, but they can do their own research, look at the father wound and the mother wound. So that damage that is done unintentionally most times by an inadequate father or an inadequate mother in raising their children. And this wound is passed on from generation to generation, almost as reliably as genetics does the job. And the trick is to start looking at yourself and realizing where this pain comes from, and then start dealing with it, to release yourself of it. And in releasing yourself from this wound, mother, father, whatever it might be, we can start releasing our children and those around us. And by being stronger ourselves, people can then see the example that you are setting. And I'll stop here, but it's what they don't realize is that humans need effort to grow. And on a simple level, when you're lifting weights, when you're in the garage lifting a barbell or whatever you're doing, that stress, that effort, not struggle, struggle's different, this is effort. That means that it makes the bone denser, it makes the muscles larger and stronger, it makes the sinews stiffer, it makes everything better. And the moment you stop working out, the body just gets weak. The bones get brittle and hollow, the muscles fade. You don't look quite as good as you used to, and you're big in the wrong places and small in the places that should be big. And so this effort, as a metaphor, that physical effort of lifting weights, it's a great place to start because you start feeling better physically. You can see it, you can feel it. Then that gives you almost the confidence to step into the emotional and mental realm and say, well, what's going on here? What's going wrong psychologically? Why am I know I'm a good man, I know I'm a good woman, I know what I've got to do, and yet I find myself behaving like a little bitch. Why am I doing that? What's going on? Why am I self-sabotaging? All these psychological pop expressions that are used ad nauseum. But if you just look at yourself and start now, this is the time to do it. This is exactly the time to do it. Clean up your house, clean up yourself, clean up your family, get everything sorted, throw the stuff out you don't need. It's great. And this is literally the best time.
Because you can't love someone else, truly love someone else, if you don't love yourself. And I can tell you right now that your mind is the loudest bitch talker in the world. It will talk so much shit to you, and it will stop you from doing things because that's the way it is. And if you're not right with yourself, and I mean with yourself, that's why people don't like to spend time, and I mean long periods of time, alone by themselves, right? So there's this that place over in I think it's the Alps, and they'll give you $1 million. This is a real thing, $1 million if you can stay at this hotel place for it's 60 days, period, okay? And it is like a one-room little shack, but it's on the side of a mountain, okay? There's no access for anything or no one. You have no internet. You have no phone. You've got nothing. Zero. It's being alone with yourself. You can bring someone with you, but imagine that person is going to be just as irritable as you are after a day or two. And I kid you not, the longest anybody's made it through has been like 20-something days. Because
no way,
total freaking isolation. Yes, because it's like
man, that's heaven. That's heaven for me.
People being without their cell phone, without any kind of entertainment, without any kind of nothing. So there is zero. There is no outside contact with nothing in the world. It's kind of like being in isolation, like being in freaking prison in solitary. But the good thing about this is that it's got a freaking window view of the freaking Alps that you're actually looking out at, and it's actually, like a one-room place. It's got food and toilet and everything. I mean, everything that you could imagine, but it's not very big. I think it's like it's all right on the sticking out of the freaking side of a mountain, right? And it's like probably 15 feet wide and probably 30 feet long. It's not very big. So, but it's much bigger than, a 5 by 10 cell that you might be in and stuck for, years without a choice. But anyway, if you can't just spend that much time by yourself, it shows how dysfunctional the human psyche is of being alone with just yourself, nothing else, right? And it's like, man, I think I would just be in freaking heaven. I'd sit there, meditate, sleep, wake up, meditate, sleep some more. I wouldn't even care what day it was. They'd have to come take me down.
I'm right there with you, Captain.
I was thinking, how could people not do this? And then actually, and seriously, they've had a lot of people try. Even this husband and wife tried it, right? And they said they do not recommend you bring in your wife or spouse, because usually they don't last as long, because they usually start with each other within a couple of days, and there ain't nowhere to go. I mean, there ain't nowhere to go. No getting away from. You can't even like block the view of the person, right? So I thought it was really fascinating that the longest that people had stayed in there was just it wasn't even a month. And it was like,
wow,
man, have you not ever been in trouble or something and been to jail? Hadn't been to nothing? Been by yourself or what? No. It's like, come on. But seriously, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? This just shows how messed up people are, that they cannot stand to be isolated by themselves. And, it's like certain people that they go to the woods and they go to the country to live, right? To get away from it all, where it's like they don't want no phone, they don't want no access to people, and they just want to be away from everything. And it does take a special kind of person to be that way. And we're not all built that way, because, people need people, and that's just a fact, right? But the other part of that is, yeah, I know I need people, and I love people, and I love to be around people. But I also, over the last probably 6 or 7 years, this is when I started getting up in the morning. And every morning I started doing this back in probably 2018, where I would get up when I work nights. I'd get up when I got up, and I'd go to the park, and I'd sit down at the park and meditate and go through my stuff. And I would just spend time setting my intentions for the day. And for like the first several months, my wife was like, what the hell are you doing? Where are you at? What are you doing? It was normal, right? And it wasn't. And so she questioned really bad what was going on. And I was like, you can look at my phone and tell exactly where I'm at. And I'm down at the park. I'm under a tree. If you want to have to come by, drive by and see if I'm here, that's fine. Just don't mess with me if you do. And after several years of doing that, she doesn't ask me anymore. She knows this is what I'm going to do when I get up, no matter if it's in the morning or evening or whenever. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the park. And I have like 5 or 8 different places that I go. The water, the bay, different places. So she can always look on the phone and see exactly where I'm at, and if she needs me. And the deal is that I go set my intentions for probably an hour or 2 every day when I get up. And it's like, do you know how hard that is to do whenever everything else has to be going on, and that you got all this other stuff? And then those days when I don't do that because I either overslept and I have to work, or I have to do this or whatever, it really throws me out of balance. And I don't ever feel like I'm normal that day. And I can't catch up to setting some kind of normalcy or normality for that time after I've not done what has become a routine of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember we had that controlling your day. It's foundational. And for those of you who think you're too busy to control your day, and look, I've got a wife in a wheelchair. She's my chief of staff. We've got Australia One. We're homeschooling. We're busy. And as a military man, I love things being in order. Right?
In order.
You start and you're tired. And that goes out the window, right? To learn that, you know what, life's chaos. So what you want to do at the end of the day, write down everything you did and say that was your to-do list for the day, because sometimes that's how crazy it gets. But by the same token, I remember we had, when I was a staff officer in Headquarters Australian Theatre, and they ran all the operations globally. And the chief of staff was never to be disturbed. He ended up being the chief of the Defence Force, like your chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He got the top job eventually, but I knew him as a one-star, and is an Air Force officer. Is brilliant, a man of deep integrity and technical capability. But he could not be disturbed. He told his staff, "Don't disturb me for the first hour in the office. I don't care what happens. You are not to disturb me." And what he would always do was make sure that he had his plan for the day sorted as best he could, because he knew the moment the phone calls from half a dozen conflicts around the planet were going to enter his office, he had to have himself sorted, and that's the way he did it. If great if you can, and if you can't, do what I do and write down what you did do and make that your to-do list for the day. It's just a little bit of chaos, but that ability to direct yourself is key. It really is key. And you started off with that comment about nobody bitch slaps you like yourself. Dead right. I mean, I was in the garage yesterday lifting some metal, doing some weights, and it's been a while since I've been in there because I've just been busy, lazy, fill in the blank. And I thought, I better restart again, just gently. Don't go back to my last max effort, my max tonnage first up, because you've had a bit of a break and the body's not going to respond well. Anyway, I'm on the bench and I lifted and I went, this is actually pretty good. I'm only 10 kgs off what I was pressing as a max recently. So I did it. And I did my first set of 3 reps of about a dozen exercises, and that's the way I rotate through. And I've got the image, the cartoon image of the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. And man, you can actually get to the point where you can hear it. And the angel's just like that, looking at you, knowing what you've got to do. The angel says nothing. And the one that talks a lot, that's the little red devil with the pointy tail. And he says things like, "Oh, look, just do one set. It's been a little while since you've been in here. Don't overdo it. You'll tear a muscle. You'll do a ligament. So just do one set." And you can almost hear it. And I'm just under the bench and I'm pressing. And I thought, no, I'll that sounds really attractive, but I'll just do another one. And nonstop the entire session, I kid you not, there was this voice I could almost hear telling me, "Just stop now. That's enough.
Don't overdo it.
And of course I did. I did
yourself.
Oh, the little bastard. I wanted to grab him by the neck and throw him out the door.
I know it.
But he's always there.
That's why people don't accomplish things, because they listen to that little fucker. And he's always telling you to stop short and you can't do that. You can't, you shouldn't, don't, and all these things, right? It's like, come on. It's like, all right, so that's where we have to be the motivator of ourselves, right? And we have to know those things that we can do and what we should and shouldn't do. And that's what's hard, because like at first, I'm 6 months or so, I mean, I had to force myself to go and do the things that I was doing. I mean, I really did. I had to get up. I had to make sure that this is what I was going to do. I was going to be patient about it. I wasn't going to do anything else. And I had to get up early to do these things, right? If I was supposed to get up at, say, noon to go to work to do my stuff, then that means I needed to get up at 10. And I only got to sleep for 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever it was. And so I had to make that concession, right? And it was difficult because, you always are going to have excuses. And that's that little fucker talking to you. And he's going to give you a bazillion freaking excuses why not to. And you seriously have to look at the excuses why to do those things, right? And then after it becomes a routine and it becomes something that becomes you, then if you don't do it, it makes you feel like you're missing something and something's not right. And it's just completely out of order. And I can tell you that spending alone time, this is for you guys out there, spending alone time where you don't have any distractions for 30 minutes or a day, at least for 30 minutes to an hour, and just focus on yourself, what you are grateful for, all of the different things that you want to accomplish, what you want to do, how you want to do it, and just don't put any expectations on that time of nothing. I mean, zero. And let yourself just be you in the moment. And after a while, it does begin to make a difference. You know, I know that the military does a lot of this kind of stuff because that's what a lot of the teams guys get broken for, because it's a psychological thing. You can do anything if the mind tells you you can take it, right? No matter what, because the mind's going to be the one that tells you to stop, because your body can take so much abuse. But if your mind says keep going, you can put up with it. It doesn't matter. It's amazing, because that's a psychological thing. And that's what I'm getting at, is when you start to deal with this stuff psychologically and the things in which are going on around you, don't put pressure on yourself about what's happening. If you cannot control it, don't worry about it. Because if you can't control it, there's nothing to worry about it, period. You've got no control. All it does is bring all of the things in which you do actually have control over into chaos, because you're focusing on things you don't have actually control over. And so, you know, what you can control is you can control yourself. You can control your attitude. You can control how you feel about things, how you react and respond to things. That's the things that you can control. And the people around you, you think you have control. You don't have control over no one around you. Not your kids, not your wife, not your husband, no one. You have control over yourself. And because you have control over yourself, then by the way you treat them and act with them and respond and interact with them, then allows them to actually respond and interact with you in the same way, or not. But you can't control that. And so the only thing that you have control over is those things in which you personally can put your hands on, meaning yourself. Anything outside of that, it's in God's hands, because it's not your hands. Just like the stuff that's going on right now. Why are you worried about something that you have no control over? But God does, and God will show you those things in which are going on to help bring a sureness to you, to allow you to be in a state of peace that passes all understanding. Because I know for a fact that what God has prepared each and every one of us to be is the eye in the storm. And to be the eye in the storm does not mean that you do not see the chaos. Because in the eye of the storm, you can be 100 yards away from the eye wall and shit's going everywhere. But where you're at is still calm, peaceful. There is no wind, no nothing. But you can see it, you can hear it. But where you're at is still calm and peaceful. God wants us to be that calm and peaceful in that chaos. It's not saying that you can't react or see the chaos that's going on around you, but he wants you to be that calm, still, strong light post that brings people into the eye and out of that storm that's going on around them. And you'll draw them to it. It will draw them to it. And so with that, this is what's going on right now. We've got the these protests that's going on. We got this No Kings bullshit that's happening here in the United States. And it really is, right? It's a freaking front for basically them to create chaos. And that's what it's all about all across the country. I think that there's going to be the same kind of infiltrators that are part of it that are going to pose as MAGA people and try to create some kind of hostility, just like they did with January 6th and everything else. It's all the same playbook, different story, same stinking verse. It's the same thing. They don't do anything different. And I think they're going to do that. But we're also going to have some false flags that are becoming. I don't know if they're coming tomorrow. I just know they're coming. We have a bunch of radioactive material that was disappeared from a train that's still never been found, right? We have all of these Muslim Brotherhood idiots that they just called us out for, a freaking kill everybody, so to speak, that's not a part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And this radical freaking idiot over there in the Middle East. I played a video on it yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, Lieutenant Colonel, but he's that idiot that called fucking jihad on everybody, and death to the freaking anybody that's an infidel, basically. And that's a key thing. You've got a lot of these individuals that came into the country that have been unvetted intentionally, that actually trained in Mexico, and they're all freaking, military age guys that came into the country. They're all over our country. And where are they at? And are they going to be activated during these No King's Day protests, whatever? Because they're going to be in all these little towns and cities and big cities all across the country. We know that Q told us that there's going to be 17 cities that are going to have the shit hits the fan in, so to speak, right? The National Guard has already been activated in all of the freaking states, whether people realize it or not. They already are. They're openly saying it in some places, like Florida, Texas. They've already openly said that the National Guard is going to be out, and if you screw up, you're fucked up. Just plain and simple. So be wise what you do out there, right? And so I just want to encourage people not to be afraid of it. They're going to show you things that are going to be possibly not what it looks like, meaning that I don't think that a lot of things that we see are going to be exactly what they are, because most of this shit's generated. You can't believe your own eyes these days because of the digital and the AI abilities to manipulate and make video on demand almost instantaneous. It's absolutely crazy how powerful this is. There are influencers out there that are 100% AI bots, and you would not know them from being different than the generated image that we have right now, and having this conversation and responding to Q&A just as we are right now. It's not necessarily the same technology that they're allowing us to use, but they're using it, and they have been using it for a long time now. I just want to encourage people that everything you see is not as it is, and we've been here to try to help you process this and to become so rooted and so grounded that even if I saw it outside, right out there in my front yard, I'd be like, all right, where in the hell is that freaking holographic machine at? Because I don't believe this bullshit. Because you have to understand that that's how good the technology is in so many different areas. And if it doesn't resonate with your spirit, call it bullshit for what it is. And we're going to be on tomorrow live most of the day. I'm going to have Juan on at, I think, 3:30 Central. And then right after that, we're going to go live and we're going to have the parade and whatever else going on at the same time for tomorrow evening. And I hope and I pray that there are no false flags for tomorrow and that people heed the warning. Don't go out there and get mixed up in shit you don't need to get mixed up in. Just stay out of it. The military is there doing the heavy lifting, and they know the things in which they need to do. Let them do their job. Would you agree with that, Lieutenant Colonel?
Yeah, exactly. This is the time not to get involved. This is the time to sit back, as you say, because what the Black Hats would love is for groups of patriots to get actively involved. Now, obviously, you have to defend yourself. You have to fill your boots. Do what you've got to do without a doubt. But there's no need to be on the front foot this time. You sit back, just watch the show, and let people do what they have to do.
Don't go looking for it.
This is definitely the time. No. This is what the Black Hats want. They're looking to. They've been basically the people have been invited to a fight, and at this point, you politely tell them that you are disinclined to acquiesce to their request. So no, thanks for the invitation to a fight, but we're not coming. But we are sending in our stead some other people who might be more than happy to engage with you. So the people sit back, sit in the bleachers, get your popcorn and Coke, and watch the show.
Absolutely. And I just want to encourage people that that's exactly what it is. It's a setup to go get entrapped into something that you don't need to be participating in, even to be an opposing voice. Doesn't need to be there. Enough people know that it's all bullshit and these people are getting paid to do what they're doing. And the ones that are not getting paid, they're useful idiots. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they've been manipulated on their emotions, not on facts, not on truths. They're pulling the emotional strings of these people, and they're out there thinking that they're doing a good thing and a human rights type situation, but in reality, they're being manipulated, and they're being manipulated through their emotions. And we have to be there for them too, because, God loves us all. God loves us all. Even those asshole agitators that are out there, they are loved by God too. Don't forget that. And so that's why we don't go out there trying to destroy them. We're not the executioner. We're not the judge. We're none of those things. Now, bring it to my doorstep and then try to bring that on me, and then we'll talk about, I'll just set up a meeting with you and him. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. But I ain't going looking for it. But if it comes to find me, well, I might have found the wrong place. And I know you're exactly the same way, because I'm not even going to think about it. It's going to be done and done. And I'll call them afterwards and say, hey, this is what happened. I don't give a shit. And I don't take it personally. So please don't get involved tomorrow. Don't get sucked into stupid shit no matter where it's at. Don't go looking for trouble. Please don't. It's a trap. And it's a trap for them. It is a trap for them that you can fall into. And that is not what needs to happen. I want you to understand that. So, anything you want to go over with any of that before we go to Q&A there, Lieutenant Colonel?
Anything about Australia that I found? Well, two points. One's a personal, one's for personal development. The other is the situation else. We were talking about meditating. If you haven't had formal instruction in meditation, ladies and gentlemen, please give it a go. It is such a powerful tool, and you'll get it's in the early stages of it. What you will learn to do, maybe, and it's funny when you reach that point. It's brilliant. It's about, I guess, observing without engaging intellectually. So you'll see things, but you won't be affected by it. You don't respond. You don't react. You just notice. And it gets to the point where you can literally see a thought coming to you. It's almost like you'll be walking through a park and you're just observing. There's a tree, there's a kite, there's a car, but there's no, oh, that's a nice car. That's the color I want. No. You just notice things, and you are so, I guess, what's the word? Detached, but not. Yeah, detached is a good enough word for the time being. You'll get it, but you can literally see thoughts coming. It's like watching a bird fly towards you, and you won't engage with it. You go, there's an interesting thought, and you let it go. There you go. I noticed it, and it gives you that space, that emotional, mental space to process. It's quite an extraordinary place. So if you haven't had formal instruction in meditation, try it out. Now, there are some good teachers and bad teachers, and like everything, you'll have to suck it and see. That's point number one.
So
Point
it's
number two.
observing without any form of judging. You don't judge anything. You just observe. You're in full
Yep.
observation, and it's like you don't judge anything, no matter what it is. It's like you see it, you experience it, and it goes right on through. It's nothing but
Yep.
an observational standpoint.
Yep. And it's an extraordinary place to be. And what it certainly taught me when I reached that point, it was how judgmental, not in a bad way, but I had an opinion on everything and I had to stick to it. Well, no, just stop it. It's nice having an opinion,
Exactly.
but you
Yes.
don't have to. That's the beauty. And that frees you up to then focus on that which is genuinely requires your attention, because we are victim of distraction so much at our own behest. So it's have a look at it. Get some instruction on meditation, and it's a hoot. It's amazing. The second bigger picture, what I want to talk about, Oz, before we go, is what's happening here with the people. It's funny. A couple of days ago, we had to go to a major city. I won't say which one. We just fly out, and it was interesting because I used to love the energy of the city, and I still do in a way. That pulse, that energy, that mass of people all in the same space, sort of striving and achieving and doing. But that was when I was young. Now I like being isolated. All I see are the trees and the kangaroos and the wallabies and the deer and the cockatoos and the whatever. And that's just where I like to be now. But the people are panicking. There's two sides. There's one group that's blissfully unaware. They literally have no clue what's coming, and nor will they, for whatever reason. There's multiple reasons I won't go into. And this is in Oz. This is major city. You should have seen them. Just no clue. Every day is just like yesterday, and I'm on my way to becoming a powerful middle manager in this large corporation. Then the other side, where people are in a flat panic, they know that something is deeply wrong. And we're getting a lot more questions. The good people just waking up, a lot more questions trying to figure out what's going on, why it's going on, why didn't they know sooner? And then you got the last group, which are the secret societies of various sorts. They're collapsing from within. We're getting reports, for example, where one town had 5 lodges in a close area. Well, 4 have closed down. They're all meeting in the one lodge now because the Masons, they're fleeing. They realized, particularly the low-level ones, just joined up because it was a networking opportunity, and they made some stupid decisions and took some stupid oaths. They are now fleeing. They're just out of there. They want nothing to do with it. They know what's coming. They realize what they've joined. And so that's now collapsing. And they are applying their, whatever you want to call it, black magic, their best efforts. They're trying hard to generate support. But what's amusing from our perspective is the Masons are only powerful because they can blackmail people into doing something. So people are promoted and they advance in the organization, not through merit, but through membership and how evil they are. And what's happened is all the people are now splitting and they can't generate it. It's like the No Kings protest, right? That's funded, it's organized, you've got people who can deliver. The Masons and what the other secret societies in Australia are discovering is they can't do that anymore. And they cannot believe it. That they'll set up, and this happened recently in another city. It was an attempt to achieve some political objective. And normally it would have great fanfare, websites, news coverage, thousands turn up. And what happened was, barely anybody that turned up, and the ones that did was stick your finger in the face of the guy at the front. And he couldn't believe it because this guy's a fairly high-level piece of filth. And it's just not working anymore. They're not turning up. They don't care. And so they are now in a panic because they thought, and they did quite rightly, they thought they ran the planet, and they did. But that ended a long time ago. So the encouraging news, I guess, that their power in a very real sense is now gone. It's just no longer there, and we're now in that transition phase. So I just wanted to throw that bit in.
Absolutely. And it's good to hear from your perspective, right, of what you see there as well as what we see here, because they're really trying to use, because the world's watching what's going on here, right? They're trying so hard to manufacture this momentum, so to speak, that they can try to facilitate out to the rest of the world, right? And there's so many people that are just like giving it the go F yourself attitude.
Yep.
That they don't buy your shit anymore, right?
Correct.
Plain and simple, they just don't. And it's like I had a video earlier today, and let me see if I can play this video while I'm live on X, because it was in X on my channel. I think that's where I put it. Let me see if I can find it. And it was about the news, right? And it was about how they propagandize everything. And it was funny because it was just like so freaking real. It was like, this is the realest news. Oh, here it is right here. Let me see if this will play. And if it will, I'll play it for everybody while we're doing this. Let's see if it'll play. All right, see if I can get this to be a little bit bigger. No, it won't go any bigger. But anyway, I think this will work. If it doesn't, screw it. I don't care. But it's hilarious. Let me see if I can do a share screen on here. Share screen. Here we go. Audio 2. And share. There we go. All right, here we go, people. Watch this. This is freaking hilarious, but it's real.
Breaking news, George Soros is funding the new Ice Fest.
Okay, that's exciting.
We go live to the propaganda.
Sir, what exactly are you protesting here today?
I don't even know why we're yelling, but I think chaos is good. What's wrong?
I watched the news. It said people are being taken from their homes.
Do you know anyone personally affected?
No, but my friend's uncle's distant cousin's friend. We're here to get impressionable youth to come cause chaos.
Why are you out here today? They're taking people from their homes. Where'd you see that? The news. Go watch the news. We are the resistance. The news said so. Grab a rock.
Good thing there's pallets of bricks and a conveniently placed pile just dropped off for protesters.
Here's the thing about people being illegal. Illegal should be legal. We don't need laws. What's good, foo? You want to catch a fade? I'll mess you up right now.
How fun. Reminds me of the Floyd Fest.
Perfect distraction while the so-called Semites cause unrest in the Middle East.
Right. More propaganda.
Good one, John. Shut it down or I'll shut it down. In other news, we were promised this land thousands of years ago. Bergstein, take it away. Thanks, Steinowitz. Remember, people, they are the bad guys. Trust me.
These people are an absolute cancer.
Truly going to be the end of the human species.
That's anti-Semitic. Brittany, you better watch your tone.
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot they fund the news.
Exactly. Back to you, Dennis.
You guys make a good point, but my producers tell me to distract people with chaos so they don't notice who's actually starting World War III.
Why are you out here today?
Because if you come here illegally, you deserve to be here. Like, illegal activities shouldn't even be illegal, dog.
Well, this is a perfect way for the government to unleash martial law. Get ready for FEMA camps, folks. Dennis, take it away. In other news, if you haven't followed Jake GTV yet, you might be a total loser. Certainly not based. Most likely retarded.
Well, how about that for being retarded? So.
Oh, man, I saw that this morning and I just cried. I thought that was brilliant. Thanks for playing it.
Absolutely. I put it up today and it was like, now we have some real news. I was like, I loved it. It was so authentic, because it's actually the truth. That's the only truth I've seen all day long. Actually, 100%. That was the only truth I'd seen all day. And it was great. You just, it when it comes from the news, it's like, bullshit. no matter what you see. And then whenever it's actually, they tell you the truth and then they put the truth to it, that's exactly what it looks like. To me, people, to me, that is the news. That is the news that you watch and you actually take in. That's how I see the news. So I just thought I would share that with everybody because I got a tickle out of it today.
I'm glad you did, because I was reading this morning. I was checking all the news sources, and there's a thing called AUKUS. It's the Australia, UK, US, and we're committed to buying, or US is committed to supplying 5 Virginia class subs starting in 2032. And there's all sorts of dramas, and I can't get my head around the deal because there's so many lies and misdirections and obfuscation. But today I burst out laughing because the first 5 paragraphs were 5 former prime ministers and their opinion on what should be done. And I just read that and I stopped reading because I knew whatever followed was complete bollocks. Anyway, so I just laughed and moved on, because it's just like you, I look at that and I just laugh and think this is nonsense and move on.
Absolutely. And so I just wanted to bring y'all a piece of entertainment for the evening, because that's exactly what that was. And if you want some entertainment, just turn on the news and actually watch it, because that's what it should be. It is entertainment, people. It is not information. It's propaganda, and it's them doing entertainment by their bosses. And so when she said, oh yeah, that's right, they pay for the news, they do. So all right, Kelly, you're up, girl.
All righty. So we have Anne asking, in Australia, we see an influx of Chinese in post offices, bakeries, health food stores controlling our foods. It looks very worrying. Yep. Are we still winning in Oz?
We are winning, but what you're seeing is, again, what the Black Hats intended. In fact, again, a few days ago, we were in another city, and I said to my wife, this looks like Dubai, because we spent 5 years in the Middle East, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Great, and UAE is brilliant, but it is such a fractured culture because you've got something like 1 million Emiratis, and the numbers are hard to assess, but it's roughly something like 1 million Emiratis and 9 million expats. And so even when you enter Dubai, it's got that energy. It's a fantastic place. It's people doing things. It's extremely exciting. But the culture that used to be there is now dissipated. It's fractured. You know, when you smash the windscreen on a car, it still holds its shape, but there's just fractures everywhere. And that's what Dubai's like. Unfortunately, they've lost their soul. And that's what it was intended for Australia. And now we've got not just the Chinese, and China refers to Australia as New China. They own it. They have police stations. They have Chinese manned police stations in Australia. They sail their warships into our harbours without permission. That is an act of war. They own the joint. We have so many corrupt politicians who are spies for China. On top of that, we have hundreds of thousands of Indians coming in from the subcontinent, and they are replacing a lot of the deaths as a result of COVID. So the government is lying about how many deaths there have been in Australia. They are keeping the numbers up by flying in, by design, people from India. Now, people from India, it's a very class-set society. The Brahmins at the top, the untouchables underneath, and everything in between. And these people are, by their culture, more prone to following orders without question. So the Chinese are running the shops. You've got the Indians in healthcare, for example, where they will just do whatever they're told. And if the hospital protocol is apply remdesivir to this particular, because they are told what to do. This is by design to try to dilute the Christian ethic in this country, replace it with drones from China and India. And again, this is not an insult. These are not my words. These are the words of the cabal. They want thoughtless, mindless drones who will do what they are told to do, like the Chinese, like the Indians, in order to replace free-thinking, strong-willed, straight-backed Christian Australians who will say, no, you're not doing that, because we're more likely to be difficult. And so are we winning? Yes, we'll be fine. They will all be invited to go back home. or change the laws in such a way that they won't want to be here anyway. It's going to be a whole lot to this country. Those who are more likely to integrate comfortably with the existing culture rather than trying to replace it with supremacist cultures like Judaism, Islam, or Hinduism, which are supremacist religions, and there is no room for that in this country. So it is cause for concern. I'm glad. True, there are whole suburbs. Spot the whitey, and again, it's not a race issue; it's the culture, and that's why we know we will win, because we are not racist. We don't care what color your skin is. If you're a Christian, you're a Christian. Welcome to our country. And if you're something else and you think that you can cut the labia off a little Islamic girl and stitch it up, and the hole that's left is barely enough room to fit a Q-tip, this is now a crime, and we will execute you for torturing children. And so the Islamists will be leaving in droves, because they know that if they continue doing what they are doing, that they will be thrown out. Religious freedom, I've explained this in detail. You may bow your head, your mind, your soul to any god you like, except Satan. We have a special place in hell for Satanists. They won't be allowed. But your physical actions in this country will be in accordance with Australian secular law, which is based on a Christian ethic. It's pretty straightforward. We have a culture. It's a good culture. That's why they came here, and they left the shitholes they came from. So, yes, you're right to be concerned, but we've got it in hand. We will be fine.
And and that, I'm glad you put it that way too, because there's a lot of Muslims that are out there, and I want people to know this, that don't have that radical jihadist, crazy fuck attitude that if you don't believe what I believe, then you're an infidel and you're going to die. I know that the Quran talks in that language about converting everyone, and that's the whole mindset of it. But there's a lot of peace-loving Islam individuals that basically go about loving people, and some of them are more loving than a lot of Christians that I've met in my past, that they don't judge people in that aspect, and they're good people. They really are. It is the same God. I don't want people to misunderstand it. It is the same God. They've just been misguided in what the truths are about it. That's all. It all goes back to Abraham. It all goes back to Abraham. It's the same God. So we all pray to the same God, but not in the same way, period. Because there is only one God. Now, there are gods, plural, with a small g, not a big G. So understand that. And so there's a very big difference in that. And I don't want to have people, because it's just like the Catholic Church. That was one of the hardest things that we had to deal with in the beginning of all this, is because, the Vatican and all of it was so corrupt and evil, and that they lost their way a long fucking time ago. And I mean a long time ago. But the actual majority of the Catholic people that are going to church and being good followers of Christ and the church have no idea what the headship is doing and what it was truly about. And it wasn't about you at all. It was about dealing with the head, the leadership. It's just like the government. It's just like the government of Iran right now. There's a lot of people, and I want you to hear me. There's a lot of people that are cheering inside of Iran today for the attacks on the regime, because the regime is evil as hell, and the people inside of Iran were cheering for it. That is the truth. They're not telling you that, though, because they don't want you to know that. They actually shut the internet off and all of Iran today because they didn't want any of this information to get out to the public and to the world. They shut it down. And so there were a lot of people that were cheering for the regime being attacked by this. And so I want you to understand, the people are good. It's these fucking leaders and these governments that are evil as hell, and that's what we're taking out. I want y'all to know that. The people are good in all these countries. It's the headship and the leadership that's who we're getting the fuck rid of. Just plain and simple.
Okay, the next question's from Nancy, and she asks, are we going to have the insurrection declaration?
Well, he doesn't have to announce it, but I don't think it really matters because we're already and have already been at war and a limited martial law. And because of that, the entire jurisdiction of his authority over the National Guard and the Marines and the active military within the country, because we have actually been invaded, it don't fucking matter because none of these governors have any kind of authority at all anyway, period. That's why he didn't put his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in, people. That's why he didn't put his hand on the Bible, because he's not a part of that system.
Okay, the next question's from Dai. She said, I love and thank you all. If I could ask 2 questions, please. I'm going to be blunt with this serious question. Maybe it's not the right time to ask, but are we all going to die or have a near-death experience? That's the first question.
So yeah, we're going to have a near-death experience. That's part of the precipice that we have to go through as a world, not just as a nation, but as a world, to see all of the evil for what it is so that it never, ever comes back. Ever. I know we're not all going to die, but I don't mind dying. I would actually prefer it because that means that I would get my new everything just like that today. I'm good with that. But no, because I've been to 5 days. I know you know this, Lieutenant. I've been there bunches of times. It's in the etheric. It's not in the physical, which sucks because in the etheric, it's awesome. It's exactly what it's going to be in the physical, but I can't stay. And that's what sucks. I have to come back. I would like to stay, but if I did, I would have to have somebody just continually pumping my body with something to keep me out so that I'd never wake up and eventually I would die and go there anyway. Hey, that's an idea. No, I'm just kidding. So, but you understand what I'm saying, right? And so it's, that's why I so try to encourage people that the worst thing that could happen is to have everything go to shit and not die. That's the worst thing, because to die is to be set free. And I mean, truly it is. And so everyone's so afraid of dying, truly, because they are not 100% sure what's on the other side. And that's why people fear it. And I have been around so many people, and I think you probably have too, Lieutenant Colonel, a few, that when they're right there, like sick, or they've been sick for a while and they get close to dying, they know they're about to die, and they are ready because they're already in that space of communicating on the other side of the veil. When they actually start talking and there ain't nobody there, because they're responding and doing in that reality that they're ready to go because they don't want to stay anymore. And they're okay. They're at such peace. I tell you, when my grandmother died, I saw the spirit leave her body, and it was I actually was in tears. I was crying because it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, she took a breath and told us goodbye. I mean, seriously. And she left. It was just like that. It wasn't like she just was in nothing. It was like, I just want to tell y'all goodbye. And then she left, and it was like you could see her spirit leave her body. And it was just like, I was overwhelmed for several days because of just how incredible it was. And it's like, people, when you lose the one thing that they have over you, and that's the fear of dying. When you have no fear anymore of dying, there is nothing that can control you ever again. Ever. That's the fear. So when Lieutenant Colonel started today with saying that their idea was to take away that there was a God. If there is no God, then there is nothing after. There is a nothingness. And they know that that's bullshit. They have chosen to go against that God and to serve the little God, which is the liar, and themselves, which is also a trinity, me, myself, and I. And so that whole fiction, or I should say nonfiction, right? No, fiction, was, I always get that screwed up, is about making you fearful of the unknown and being afraid of the after. That's the whole thing. And it's crazy. So I just want to encourage you. There's nothing to be fearful of. Nothing.
That's actually worthy of further discussion there, Captain, because again, if you get the important stuff right, first things first, everything else follows. If you don't have that centerpiece of your life sorted, then you're desperate. You live in fear, and it's critical to get that. Somebody asked me once, "What do you fear most?" I made the discussion in the car. We were coming back, the whole family there, the girls and everybody. And one of my daughters said, "What do you fear most, Dad?" And I said, "That's easy. Not doing my best. Not doing my best. Whatever my best is, do my best, because I've got a job to do. We all have a job to do. We are here by choice. We are here by design. We are here with a purpose, whether you know it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not. And so, I've got to do my best. The only thing I want to hear when I get to the other side is, well done, good and faithful servant. That's it. My life is a gift from God. It's not my life. He gave it to me. This is a foundational concept that people have to get. You don't earn anything from God. It's not like you've got to deal with the Almighty. If I do this, you owe me. Please, grow up. It's a bit like the 5-year-old that goes to Dad the day before Father's Day and says, "Dad, can I have $5? What for?" "I want to buy you a Father's Day gift." Now, does the father benefit from this transaction at all? No. But the father loves it. Makes sense? And we are the same. We're not going, this is the beauty of grace. Unearned forgiveness, unearned whatever. We can't earn it from God. It's a gift. So do the best you can with that gift. And while you're here, for as long as you're here, do what you've got to do. Make every day count. Another good question is, if you had 24 hours to live, what would you change about your life? And if the answer is lots, then you're not living your life the way you should. Every day for me, it's not some sort of maudlin perspective, but every exchange with my daughters, my son, my wife, am I speaking? And I don't always do this because I'm human. My wife and I have energetic discussions like all married couples do. But if you're not living your life as if your day is your last day, in the sense of not you plan ahead, of course you plan ahead. Not that childish, I'm going to sex, drugs, and rock and roll and leave a good-looking corpse. That's just childish. But if you would dramatically change your life because you knew you had 24 hours to live, then maybe you need to review how you live your life, because as busy as we are, Australia One, homeschooling, wife in a wheelchair, cooking, cleaning, gardening, all the maintenance has got to be done. I might be in the middle, and it happens often. I'm in the middle of important work, and one of my daughters comes up and says, "Dad, are you busy?" I says, "Of course I am, but you come first. What do you need?" And it takes all of, sometimes 30 seconds, sometimes 5 minutes to fix the issue. But that's how I try to make sure that I'm living my life. So if somebody said you've got 24 hours to live, not much would change. And I mean it, not much would change. And it's not because I'm particularly clever, bright, smart, whatever. I just have a good grasp on the nature of my life, the source of my life, the source of every success of mine. It comes from the Almighty, and I'm just doing my best to stay out of his way and do what I've got to do with this gift that he has given us. Get the ego out of the way. Please just understand your place. Once you've found your place under God, it's easy. It's really easy. It might require effort. It might hurt. But knowing what's got to be done is easy, and you just go do it. Please focus on that, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll find the next few weeks, months, and years brilliant.
Yeah, and it's like the only thing that when you say that, if you only had 24 hours to live, what would you do different? And the only thing I would do different is I would make those plans of doing those few things that I wanted to do that I had planned to do sometime later on. I would do them right this minute. Meaning, go somewhere, travel, see something, that experience that I wanted to do, that I had every intention to do, somewhere down the road, thinking that, I've got another 10 or 15 years to go. But if I knew that I only had 24 hours, I would go to start to do that until I expired, But the other parts of my attitude, my relationships, and all those other things, I wouldn't. There would be nothing for me to change in that aspect, right? And so that's the thing that should be driving you, and how you do things.
There's an interesting perspective on that I heard years ago, and we all fall for it. And you just said it then. I've got 15 years to do that. Well, none of us go surfing. You've only got 15 summers left. You go, oh shoot! You mean I've only got 15 summers left? Oh, well, that just puts a new sort of perspective on it. So let's tell you what, let's make the plan, let's save the money, and let's go have that experience now, because we want to have it. And we've only got 15 summers left to do it, so let's go do that now. And as you're right, because I'm blessed, I really am. I'm one of the luckiest guys on the planet. I'm 65 years old. I have seen and done things which... It's just incredible, the depth and breadth of the experience I've had. Not just because of my military career, which has been extraordinary, but I can tell you little moments that I've been able to use. I'll give you a story, and I'm sorry for wasting time, but I don't think we are. I was consulting to the gas and oil industry. I was in Milan, Italy, and I was at the Milan Central train station waiting to catch a bus to the airport. And I'm standing there, and there was this big bear. This gentleman came towards me, an Italian, and I speak Italian, so he came to me and said, look, there's a gentleman over here. He doesn't speak Italian, but he needs a phone. He's got a problem. Can you look after him? I had no idea who this guy was, this little guy. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll help him out. And this big bear of a man came across and indicated he needed a telephone. And I said, oh, here we go. And you've got to watch out when you travel, folks, because the con artists in Europe are second to none. You hand over the phone, the next thing you know, they're gone. So anyway, I'm standing there, and I go, okay, here's the phone. Dial the number. I asked him the number. He gave me the number. I got on the phone. A woman answered, and it was his Italian relative somewhere down south, because I was in Milan, which is up north. And I had a quick chat to the lady. He said, look, there's a gentleman there. His name is blah, 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 and he needs to speak to you. He's having some problems. So I gave him the phone. He spoke to her in a language that I didn't recognize. And then he hung up and gave me the phone back. And it was obviously, he was highly distressed because she basically said, I've got no money for him. He needs to get down to where I am. He had not a cent to his name. This gentleman turned out to be Ukrainian, and I didn't speak Ukrainian, no clue. But it became clear that he needed money to get a train to get down to his relative down south. I'd spoken to her, so it was all okay. So I pulled 50 euros out of my wallet and I gave it to him. And this big bear of a man, and I'm 6'3", I'm not a small chappy. And this guy hugged me like a big Russian bear. It was huge. And he cried, and snot came out of his nose, and the tears flowed, and my suit was now covered. It was a mess. But for $50 to change a guy's, the equivalent of $50, 50 euro, to change a man's life so profoundly for $50 was just an incredible experience. And when I say big experience, experiences, that for me is a big experience. You know, going to Afghanistan, that's on a different scale, but to affect the soul so profoundly. And I've been on the receiving end of that, where I was so broke I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. And I had a family and a wife, and this guy shook my hand, and inside his hand was $50. I mean, you can change a life with $50. It's just extraordinary. These are the big experiences I'm talking about. They are so profoundly impactful. And I've had so many of these moments because I've been aware enough to think, you know, this is an opportunity. What are you going to do with it? God's given you a choice. This whole, and my wife put it beautifully the other day, we were discussing it. Everything we're going through with COVID, everything we're going through with the No Kings protest, everything that we're going through on the planet now, it's a battle for choice. I know that sounds weak, but that's it, the choice. We have the choice. God has given us the choice to respond, to react, to engage with circumstances and individuals. And it's up to us what we do with it. It is literally as simple as that. How do you choose to act now? You give the guy 50 euros, he snots up your very expensive suit, and you don't care because all of a sudden this guy can go to the ticket counter, buys his ticket, heads down south to Naples to go to his sister who couldn't get the money to him. You saved her life just for 24 hours.
Is some of the most profound emotional bonding as a human if you receive it in that way that touches your soul and your spirit like nothing else. It really truly does. And those are the kind of moments that you never forget. And it's like that experience, if you go and you start to think about it for a few minutes, everything around. You remember what you were talking about in that meditation as the observer? All those things, what you observed at that moment, the feelings, the emotions of what happened, who was around, the sounds, everything start to come back to you because it made that kind of an impact on your spirit. And it's like, there's nothing better, people, than to love another person and do for them and want nothing in return and see how it changes a person's life. And not that it changed that person's life, it changes your life. That's the life I'm telling you changes.
Yep, without a doubt. Yep.
Okay, here's another one from Australia. EOR4404 asks, is Australia going to allow Muslims to build an epic city there? I watched them bragging about it.
No, because, and I've explained this quite directly. And as the captain said, it's the mad mullahs from Lakemba. That's a suburb in Sydney, and they actually have the New South Wales Police Force preventing people walking up and down the street because it might offend some Muslims. See, that's where they take over. And let me say this, and if this sounds offensive, I don't fucking care for the mad mullahs of Lakemba. I said to them, this is Australia. Australian law is paramount. We will not have separate laws. It's one people, one country, one flag. One law, one Christian law. And if we hear the word jihad uttered once in any mosque, we will acquire the land and the building without compensation. We will raise it to the ground and sow pig's blood on the soil. Now that sounds really offensive, but what you've got to understand about Islam is that their job, the mad mullahs, is to create Dar al-Salam. Dar al-Salam is the realm of peace. The realm of peace in Islamic law is wherever jihad, wherever Sharia is paramount, the paramount law. So once Sharia has been in place on a piece of terrain, it is now Dar al-Salam. Dar al-Harb is the realm of war. And that's where there is no Sharia. And that's the way they see the planet. So when they create an Islamic suburb, they consider it Dar al-Salam, and it is always now Islamic. Now, the reason I would be so insulting as to sow it with pig's blood is not because I give a rat's ass about pig's blood. I don't. I'm communicating in a blunt and brutal way, which those fucking morons need to hear because that's all they understand. Please understand, I'm not talking about every Muslim. I'm talking about Arab leadership. And if you don't believe me, listen to what the Emiratis say about the Muslims. there's a wonderful quote from His Highness Prince Abdullah Al bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who's the foreign minister for the UAE. And he says basically, and I could bring it up and play quickly, but the short version is this. There will come a day, this is the foreign minister of the UAE speaking, there will come a day when there will be too many more Islamic radicals destroying countries because the people in the West think they understand the Muslims and Islam better than the Emiratis do. And he says that's complete nonsense. The Emiratis keep strict control on their mullahs. If a soldier grows his beard too long, he doesn't deploy because they know this guy's a radical. And the Emiratis have led the way. You control the mullahs. Now, the mullahs have more freedom in Australia than they do in the United Arab Emirates. So here's a message not to Muslims, because I've got many Muslim friends, and I had 5 years in the Emirates, and they're brilliant people. But understand this. You cross the line, there will be no forgiveness. You will cease to exist as a people, as a religion in this country. If you think that you can turn this country into Dar al-Salam, it will forever be Dar al-Harb, as far as we're concerned. Now, the Muslims know this. I've said this. It is not a racial thing at all. It is brutally honest. You will be expelled without compensation by the fucking bushel. So I've used a bit of Australian language there, just so they know I am absolutely serious about this, and all those poodle-faking politicians with whom you have dealt up until now will be either executed or in jail, and you'll be dealing with people like me. So, ladies and gentlemen of Australia, you can relax, and the Islamist mullahs in Lakemba and the rest of the country can start shitting themselves.
So, that same thing. You remember some time ago when I was asked that same question about here in Texas, because they were had bought this big plot of land and they were going to do their own city and so on and so forth. And I basically said that it ain't going to fucking happen. And there's no way in the world that they will allow that to take place. And it's been completely shut down. And told that it will never happen here by leadership. It will never happen here. This is things that they do, and they plan, and they try to take over in this way. And they do it secretly at first, and then when it becomes open, they see how much they can get away with. And people in the past have been afraid, fearful of going against their wishes, because it's like all of this politically correct nonsense bullshit it was a cancer to the people's brains. And people have finally gotten wind of the fact that if you don't stick to your moral high ground, no matter what, it will infest, rot, and kill you from the inside. Well, that's their intent. And so when they were asking that about that there, it's like, no, sorry, there's going to be no place for that anywhere in the future. I know, because I've been there. That kind of ideology does not coincide with our future, people, anywhere, nowhere. So this is one of those things that has to be shown, exposed, dealt with, and let go of. This is why we're having this pushed out into the front. This is why this crazily radical freaking Muslim basically called a jihad on the world. And so all these things, all this stuff has to happen so that it can be exposed, the light can come to it, it can be dealt with, and be no more, period. Because we can't have a culture of love that is partially built on hate, because that's what the Muslim ideology was founded on, was hate. And let me tell you how, is because basically it comes from the Isaac and Ishmael and the birthright of Abraham. And because Abraham and Sarah did not stick to the promises of God, and they got involved, and by law, by their right, they were able to have Abraham have a birth with a concubine, which was where Ishmael came from. He was the firstborn, but that was not the will of God. That was not the plan of God. That was not the pure bloodline of Abraham that God made the promise to. And so man, Abraham, screwed up God's promise because he got involved, didn't stay with the trust and faith that God was going to fulfill his promise in which he said to him, and then brought Isaac into this world. And because of the conflict that was created because of Sarah and Abraham not trusting in faith that God was going to fulfill his promise, Ishmael had to be sent away, because that was not God's promise. That was man's. That was not God's. God is going to stay with his plan no matter what we do to fuck it up. I'm just telling you that, people. Plain and simple. And so, but what God did is said that Abraham's seed would always be blessed. Where was Ishmael sent to? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the house of the kings. They are rich and wealthy, powerful individuals. That's the bloodline that Ishmael came from. The house of Saud, not necessarily, but you understand what I'm saying. And that it was founded on thinking that they lost the birth or the birthright that God was supposed to give Ishmael was given to Isaac, and that it was against the law. Well, in actuality, that is a true statement. But in God's law versus man's law, God's law is a higher authority than what man's law is. And that was God's destiny. And just because Abraham and Sarah screwed up because they didn't have faith in God fulfilling his promise, because Sarah was 100 years old without a baby. Yeah, I could see how that would be a little disturbing at that point. But God is faithful, and he did adhere to his promise. But this is where that was birthed out of. It was birthed out of the anger that was stolen from them. And so everything since then has been about them taking back what they think has been stolen from them. That's where it all comes from, people. Just so you have an understanding of it. And that's where that anger and hostility and that take mentality comes from, because it was all birthed in the anger of that the promises that were supposed to be bestowed on them were stolen from them, and they have never gotten over it. And this anger and hostility is passed on birth to birth to birth to birth. And that's why even from, when they're just babies, that's the mentality and the education and the indoctrination they get their entire life. And then let me tell you, you know how much it helps that we go over there and stick bombs up their ass and blow up their neighborhoods and everything else? That kind of pisses people off too. So don't kid yourself that we have created that monster. So just wanted to add to that.
Okay, Steph asks, my son is a journalist in Tel Aviv. I've been watching him all day as the missiles have been coming in. Are we watching a movie still, or is he in real danger while the military is still fighting the cabal? Thank you for all you do.
So I don't think he's actually in real danger, because I think majority of these targets are pre-designed specifically, and that they are hitting them for the theatrical effect of what's actually being shown. I know for a fact that majority of the buildings are empty. They're not there. It's with intent. And now, can things go awry and some extra people, things happen? Abso-fucking-lutely can happen. But most stuff is pre-designed for specific outcomes, and that and I know you know this, I'm telling it for the other people, that with the technology that's out there, if they're allowed to get these shots through, which that's what's happening, they're actually meant for specific places so that they get the specific outcome that they're looking for. Would you agree with that? So I don't think that he's in actually the kind of danger that the world wants to believe. That's the visual that they want to project to the world, because if they don't, if everybody has the mentality like you, myself, and like Lieutenant Colonel that knows it's all bullshit, it's like, all right, well, fuck, it's time for me to go play golf. They don't want that, because then they won't be able to have the kind of chaos that needs to happen. They need that projected image out to the world that everything is going to hell in a handbasket and that there may be no tomorrow. Because that's the only way to break the psychosis that's ingrained in the people that are asleep right now. That's the only way.
Okay, Kieran asks, blessings from New Zealand. Can someone please give us some information and insight about what's going on in New Zealand? We only hear about, and then I don't see the rest. So can you fellas fill her in, please, on New Zealand?
Lieutenant Colonel?
I suppose that one falls to me. Yeah, no, that falls to me, but unfortunately, I've taken my eye off the New Zealand bull for some time now. I do apologise, but I tell you what, I'll look into it deeply over the next week or so, and next time I'm with you, Captain, I'll have something on New Zealand for you. I'll also have New Zealand, I guess, on the green room next week. I'll try to get something.
And what I would assume, that's why I say that very intentionally, is that there is nothing being left undone, and that what you see happening in other parts of the world are actually still happening there behind the scenes. And like Lieutenant Colonel Bossy said earlier, the image that the black hats were doing is what's being portrayed to the people. And it's being forced out there on purpose so that the people experience it to the point where enough is a fucking enough. But it's being controlled. It's just like with everything else, that it's being pushed out into the light at such a rate that it's impossible not to notice it. And that's with everything, everywhere. And so there's not an inch of ground that within the confines of this earth that has not already capitulated and is not already a part of the overall plan and how it's going to be manifested, and that the military is not running it. Period. So I want to encourage you that even though you don't see some kind of examples of what might be taking place there, it is because of what you see going on everywhere else. And that is also happening there, but necessarily behind the scenes and not in front of everybody else. And it's all happening on purpose. Don't worry about it. It's all supposed to happen in the United States first. Why? Because everybody's watching it. Everybody's watching it around the world. This is intent, right? And then when shit hits the fan, it's going to hit the fan and it's going to go out everywhere. And when we talk about a near-death experience, that's a global near-death experience, not just a nation. It's a global situation. That's when we should expect an actual real EAS, not until, because it is designed for the information that's to be put out there is for the globe. Everybody, however you want to say that, I don't care. Flat, square, round, whatever. I don't give a shit. It's meant for everybody, okay? And not for just a country, period. And until we get to that situation, we're not there yet. We're not at that precipice. We're getting closer and closer to it every day, by every minute, every hour. We're getting closer to that day. And it's coming. But don't sweat it, because it's all going to work out. Everything is going exactly as it has been designed and purposed to go. Period.
Okay, Captain. We're almost at 2 hours. Did you want to keep
Yeah,
going?
let's do one more, sweetheart.
Alrighty. Motley Mel asks, if the war was really happening in Middle East, why would they continue with the festivities in D.C. tomorrow?
Well, as a military man, let me ask you, Lieutenant Colonel, if there was the threat of nuclear proliferation and World War III actually getting kicked off with this kind of craziness, would you be doing what you're doing with a military assets being exposed like that in a single place? Would that actually be going on?
If World War III was a real option, I think that'd be paramount in everybody's head.
Absolutely. So it'd be like,
there's
no fucking way. None of that would be happening.
Look, there's an old adage, I'm not sure whether they teach it anymore, but an officer should never run, because if an officer runs, it panics the troops. So leadership is always calm regardless of the circumstances, okay? So there's that image, it's about to fall apart, and let's have a parade. This is trolling of the first order of the bad guys, if that makes sense. But in a very serious sense, yeah, you're right. If the World War III was about to happen, that'd be the big story. But the fact is, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, there are issues all around the planet. Nothing is of a terminal nature. There will be tomorrow. We're not going to wake up to a mushroom cloud. So let's enjoy the moment, have our parade, which will be an excellent cover story for other things as well. So you're watching multiple threads being woven together. And so short version is relax. I was told, and this goes a long way to explain why I don't have my my emotional moments on screen anymore. Progressively, I've understood more about the plan and how things are going to play out. And the thing that gave me most peace was the statement, "You, sir, will be very satisfied with the conclusion." And I went, well, my end state has several boxes to tick. And if I'm going to be satisfied, then I'm pretty relaxed about that. We'll keep doing what we've got to do the way we've got to do it, and understand that others will be doing their job too. So no.
And the whole thing was with that,
if the Middle East
is that you and I both know that the heavy lifting and the things that really, really need to be done are being done by the ones that can actually do it. Period.
And the things that have yet to be done, because we're constantly thinking ahead. What's the next level? What's the next problem? Let's think a year ahead, 5 years ahead, 5 years ahead. What are the big tectonic shifts that have to be anticipated. And we keep coming up with them. And guess what? It's already on their to-do list. It's fine. We still have a job to do, and it's good to think advance how we would contribute to any number of these large geopolitical situations. It doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing and wait for orders. No, that doesn't work. But there's nothing that we can think about that hasn't been thought about.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
And so,
and planned for.
When Trump and the Trump organization, the White Hats, have actually told us that they have technology that can bend space, time, and reality. They're not confined by it. They have the technology. They've used it. And then you apply that to the knowledge of what they did with MH360 or 370 in Malaysia when it was there and then it was not there. And where did it go? Well, they moved it from one location to another. And where that other location was Diego Garcia. And it was disappeared. Because what they had on that plane, people, was technology that the enemy could not get, period. The White Hats said, sorry, but see ya. It's not going to happen. I've talked about the technology that they had on there with the room temperature quantum super chips that they had actually on there. They could have changed the reality of the planet beyond the recognition that there would have been nothing. We couldn't have recovered from it. They could not allow that to happen, period. And so they disappeared a plane out of the fucking midair. Now tell me that there is something that we need to worry about. There is not. They are not bound by time. They're not bound by the reality. They have been using Looking Glass and time jumping for a long period of time. And so if they haven't seen all that could be as possibilities and mapped all those out with the different levels of quantum computing that are already in existence, it's happening from what I talked about the other day. On my last truck talk, I explained about how the benevolent quantum system that they're using, which is called the Golden Dome. Oh, guess what? It already exists. And introduced it to the supercomputer that the Black Hats was using called Hammer. And it was being developed and ran by the software, which was the artificial intelligence that was being put out there by Palantir, and its collection capabilities was beyond your understanding. They have it all, they know it all, and they can do it all. And it's something that when you know that you know what they have at their availability, and it's being throttled back because of what they could do, it is like it shows just how much restraint they're actually using. And it's amazing. It really truly is. Because that much power is beyond people's understanding. And they're not even like using none of it. I mean, almost nothing. And that kind of restraint is absolutely respectful. It truly is. It has my highest regards. When you know what it is and what they have the capabilities of doing, and they're choosing to use restraint, that's true power. True power. And it's amazing. Lieutenant Colonel, it's always
Thank
a
you,
blessing.
Captain. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Kelly, love you. Love you guys.
Love
Every
you
one of
guys.
you. Have a wonderful evening. We will see y'all tomorrow, 3:30 Central, right here. Same bat time, same bat channel, and we will have 107 on. So, love you guys. We will talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.